Yo, and welcome back to the Beginner Team Sonic LTS tutorial. Today, we'll be covering Frog Forest. This stage has frogs, and they're silly little guys that make it rain. We don't really use them a whole lot, but they do exist. Also, the music's good. That's about it, so let's dive in. As soon as you load in, character switch twice to go up to top speed, and glide when you get to the left part of the rail. Buffer a switch to Sonic and kick as soon as you land so you don't get hit by this enemy. Homing attack on the ground and land on this rail. You'll first need to balance to the right, then to the left as soon as this ring trail ends. Balancing correctly can be tricky, but if you do it right, you will get enough speed to skip this upcoming frog. You can either glide through this upcoming gap or rail switch as Tails. Hit this booster as Tails, jumping around these platforms, and hit the gong as Knuckles. It's actually faster to hit the back of the gong, saving a tiny bit of time. Scary strat coming up. It's possible to skip this loop, saving up to a second. The setup I like to use is to kick exactly 4 times as soon as you land, and jump off when the ground flattens out. I like to hold the jump a little bit to slow down, and make sure to homing attack a little late so you don't start walking backwards. This strat is very easy to die on, so I would only recommend it for top level players. There isn't much going on in this next section, just follow the path I take on screen. Tiny time saver here, roll after hitting this speed pad and hold left on the stick until you see Sonic turn. This will make it so you don't get as much height when getting off this ramp. After hitting the checkpoint, fly as Tails to this flower, skipping having to land on the lower platform. There's going to be 2 main ways to go through this next section. I'm going to show you the easier version first. Simply take the flower and press B to let go around this point to land on the rail below. Get to around this point and jump as Tails. I like to tap the L trigger a few times after jumping to get a better camera angle. Your goal is to land on this top platform and use all the speed you've built to fly across the gap. This skips having to do a mid-air kick, so that's always nice. I'll now go over the harder route. It involves a mid-air kick across this gap and another one later. There's not a lot of space to get your rocket accel in, the flower is in the way, and the rail can be hard to hit, so you need some really strong confidence if you want to go for this strat. A few tips I can give are, first, make sure you're spacing yourself correctly. I like to charge my rocket accel on the back part of the platform and go to the front while my teammates are behind me. Second, make sure your camera control is on point. I like to hold the L trigger while charging my rocket accel to make sure the camera is facing forwards. Although you can get this trick by simply mashing the B button, I personally like to time each input accordingly, especially the last B press for the kick. The kick will only come out after your teammates are properly done giving you the rocket accel. If you don't want to do all that, an alternative is to kick fly through this gap as Tails, at the cost of 2 seconds. This removes the risk of going for the rocket accel, and the flight isn't as tight as it looks. After hitting the rail, bounce to the left and follow the path I take on screen. You can either glide between the rails or jump as Tails, which is surprisingly not that much slower. Time for another mid-air kick. This one is not as bad since the flower isn't in the way, just follow the same advice as before. If you really don't want to do this trick, you can kick fly through this gap, or use this railing on the right. These flights are a bit tighter than the one before though. Time for yet another route divergence. The top route is much harder and if done perfectly will save up to 4 seconds compared to the middle route. However, the low route is pretty much foolproof and you basically will never have a problem with it. So I'll only cover that in this tutorial. Take the flower, speed up the emulator. Okay, please don't do this during runs. And press B to let go of the flower slightly earlier. You have the option to mid-air kick through this gap to save a second, or to take the vines like intended. Fly to the higher ground, hit the gong, and keep going. Kick down the slope and take this loop on the left, as we'll need these speed shoes for later. It's now time for everyone's favorite trick, the Triple Titty Glide, or TTG for short. It saves over 10 seconds and it looks really cool. To do it, kick into this speed pad, mash B to get 3 more kicks in, buffer a switch to Nux, and double tap the A button to launch off. The timing for this can be tricky. I just wait for the camera to snap forward to know when I'm good to go. The speed shoes will help you get the speed needed to get to the goal ring, but it's still possible to make the distance without them, using fire dunks to reset your falling speed. Make sure to space out the fire dunks for maximum efficiency. Unfortunately, there are a few inconsistencies with TTG. Since it involves clipping through a speed pad, if you haven't built enough speed, you will sometimes get owned and will have to play this part normally. In case this happens, hit the spring as tails to get to the higher platform. Then destroy the golden robot, trigger the frog's rain, and take this rail. Tiny time saver, you can actually jump off at this part of the rail to get to the goal ring, saving about a second. And that's all. Thanks for watching the speedrun tutorial for Among Us All Tasks, All Maps.